Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, Town of Southampton, for February 20th, 2018 at 6 o'clock. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being recorded and I believe televised. Just showing my face on the screen doesn't tell me it's going out there. Okay. Before I start the meeting, I want to do a couple of reminders for individuals in town. Presently, nomination forms are available at the town clerk's office. We have a shopping list of positions in town that are open. Please consider doing things for your community. Take out nomination papers. The town clerk will help you fill them out and understand how to do this. 2, the Select Board is starting its annual report. Mr. Labrie gave a draft to all members. May I suggest that when you have time, I'm sorry?
Oh, is it here?
Yes.
Okay, sure, okay. I thought you sent it electronically, okay.
And take a look at it and send it back to the town administrator for collating. We are now going to start with the Appointment Bylaw Review Committee. Francine Tishman. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but basically she wants to be on this subcommittee. She's served on numerous committees over the years in town.
She's also returning to the committee.
Right. Now, is there a vacancy?
Yes.
Actually, that's a little bit out of order.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Down under new business, item number 5 is the resignation of Jacqueline Sears from the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. So
There's
she
no,
would be filling that term.
there's no vacancy, we gotta create it by the resignation first.
Well, then let's jump down to the resignation of Jackie Sears just to take it out of order. I don't have it handily, but my understanding is she has requested a step down, has notified us in writing. Do I hear a motion to accept her resignation?
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Could I just mention that the letter that she wrote commended some people, and it would be nice if we had read it. I'm happy to do that,
Would you
except that
please?
I don't have it up on my computer yet, unless it's in the packet. I can get it, it takes 2
It's in
seconds.
the packet as well.
Number 5.
You need a copy if you don't have it?
Okay, that'd be good. I don't see it here. Dear Select Board members, it is with great trepidation that I regretfully resign from the Bylaws Review Advisory Committee as of January 26, 2018. While some of the bylaws are in good working order, others need a distinguishing body of individuals who can dedicate a reasonable amount of time to properly review, modify, and sharpen these most important guidelines. It's been an honor to serve with so many wonderful members, including Virginia Ahart, thank you, Chair of the Community Conservation Committee, Preservation Committee, who brings an impressive cornucopia of experience and wisdom to help decipher and weigh in on our current bylaws, while our town clerk, Janine Domina's knowledge and grasp of our bylaws assures us that any changes or proposed suggestions by the committee will not challenge or confound existing town bylaws of the Massachusetts general laws. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the excellent work of that the assistant to the town administrator and chair of the Bylaws Advisory Committee, Velda Goldberg, has consistently done for the community. This gentle lady has been instrumental in organizing and coordinating the Bylaws Review Advisory Committee. She has also astutely delineated more efficient budget practices and timelines, constructed and rewrote bylaws with the help of other members, and has helped town employees in a conciliatory manner, ensuring camaraderie and inclusion in times of transition and reorganization. It's been my pleasure to work with these fine ladies who unselfishly volunteer for the town of Southampton, reassuring us that the town's bylaws will continue to serve all of our citizens in a fair and coherent way. Sincerely, Jacqueline Sears.
Very nice. Do I hear a motion to accept her resignation?
We have a motion and a second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. So now let's jump back up to Bylaw Review Committee appointment. Do I hear a motion to appoint?
We have the her paperwork saying that she wants to be on it, obviously,
it's in the
so
packet.
I'll make a motion, we nominate Francine Tishman.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved, unanimous.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Whenever anybody is appointed or resigns from a committee, it comes before us? Because I believe Francine did resign from another committee. That's what I was told. I don't know if
Which one?
that's official finance.
No, not until the end of this
End of
term,
the term, okay.
in May.
All right. But is the answer to the first question yes? All would come before this committee for approval and when people resign as well?
If we appoint them, it would.
Okay.
If they're appointed, then yes. This thing on the agenda is Glendale Ridge Vineyard pouring permit, public hearing. Ed, you want to bring us up to speed on this, please?
Sure, and Mary Hamill is here from the vineyard, but they would like to open up once again. They've kind of had a change of, shall we say, ownership along the way, so Mary is interested in having a wine pouring permit there at the vineyard now that they have grapes again. She has submitted all the required paperwork. The abutters were notified of the public hearing. She has her information ready to go to the ABCC. It was posted as a legal ad in the Daily Hampshire Gazette on Monday, February 5th. So all the paperwork is in order.
Very good.
And Mary's here if you got any questions
Mary?
for her, or if
I have a question. On the people we got, it just said there are some things missing from the application. ABCC, WC, form signed, check. Is that all in order now?
Occupancy permit, I heard, is not ready yet.
yeah, everything would be in order. If the board does move to approve this, it would be conditional on ABCC approval and also on them getting an occupancy permit, which Mary's currently waiting for the inspection of the building inspector and the fire chief. But all the other paperwork is in order.
So is it the cart before the horse on this one? I mean,
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
So the reason we're petitioning now is so that when we do open,
Right.
we would like to be able to pour wine by the glass for our customers. We're a licensed farmer winery,
Right.
both by the federal government and by the state. We put an addition on our existing building, and so that's why there's a change. But we haven't opened yet for business, and we would,
when do you think that's going to be?
within the next, well, we've got a little bit of plumbing left to do, but outside of that, and a little electricity, but it'll be done within the next 3 weeks.
I just want to put it on my calendar, that's all.
Okay. It's great. It's a beautiful new space, and we're pretty excited about the whole prospect.
If the
the
plumber
truth.
finishes them.
Okay, anybody from the audience wish to address this license? It's a public hearing, so the public is open for discussion. Please.
Barbara LaFlamme, 20 Cook Road. I would encourage the Board of Selectmen to approve this particular license. I've had many a pleasant glass of wine there, and it's a nice addition to the town, so please support it.
Anyone else? Then I'm closing the public hearing. Does the board make a motion to move forward?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the license pending the 3 items that are missing from the application. Form from ABCC, the WC form signed, and a check for the license.
And any other paperwork that
And any
may.
other paperwork, but he said everything else was up.
Yeah, I
to
just
date.
want to
Okay.
cover it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'll second that.
Okay.
Discussion?
No, if we get all the paperwork and everything, I think we're fine.
clerk have that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Congratulations.
Hope you have a good season.
Yeah, beautiful spot, thank you.
Okay, next one is Selectmen's Report. Does any board members have anything to report?
No.
Silence is, okay. Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Gibson, please.
Yes, Mr. Konecki. Let's see, I have received a verbal response from Town Council concerning the right of first refusal from a seller of parcels with any of the Chapter 61 designations, that the town would need specific evidence of some sort from the purchaser that the property would be taken out of chapter land in order to send a letter along to the seller asking to have that right of first refusal. So the town does not have the ability to just blanket solicit the right of first refusal from a seller. And Town Council did promise, while she did not have time to do a full written opinion on that for tonight's meeting, that she would for by the March 6th meeting, and would also go into detail on the items that might entail specific intent to send that letter out. So we can expect that for our next meeting. Second item, Chief Workman and I have worked together to solicit the quotes for the used mobile home to be purchased by the fire department. The advertisement for requesting the quotes has been placed on the Combis, which is the state procurement website, and Chief Workman has also sent the letter that I put together along with the specifications for this purchase to 5 vendors. The responses are due no later than March 5th at 3 p.m. I followed up on the Select Board's request to obtain more information concerning the apparent deficit in the school lunch account. I have been assured that the deficit is just due to the timings of the postings to that account. According to the school food manager, she is absolutely positive the fund will finish the year in the black. In fact, by her records, it's in the black right now. So that's was just a timing issue. I also checked on the police overtime expense account. I am told that that account is overspent due to ongoing investigations and or injuries or illnesses due to the department, and it is not that much out of the norm for past years, and that the usual process at the end of the year is to transfer funds into that account to cover any deficit. The KP Law opinion in regards to chapter land's intent to convert upon sale, which was presented at the last Select Board meeting, has been added to the town's website as requested. It is under the Documents and Forms heading. I do have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with VHB and the district director from Representative Kokot's office for an update on the East Street Bridge project.
It's the morning.
That's right, it is, yes. I've got so much going on tomorrow, I can't, unless I look at my calendar, I can't keep it all straight. It's at 10:30. I have the opportunity to attend the Greenway Committees and Personnel Boards meeting in the past week and a half, and have become acquainted with the members of those committees. And Eversource will be coming in for a meeting tomorrow afternoon with our development building group and give us all an update on the approved solar project that they have purchased here in Southampton. The next Select Board's meeting will be on March 6th at 6 p.m., and there will be a department heads meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, February 21st, but it's at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Just a question, Ed, on the workman's comp you were saying, and tell me if I heard it wrong, but you're saying that it's running over and that's the way it's been in the past years, and
No, the overtime, police overtime.
police overtime, that's the way it's been in the past years. I would think during the budget process, rather than at the end of the year try to find the money to transfer into it, that they budget at the appropriate level this year so that it's in the budget rather than having to find the money at the end of the year, if it's consistent every year.
Well, sometimes, especially with the police overtime, it's really driven by what is going on for investigations, and it can fluctuate greatly from year to year. So
But
it might be worthwhile to looking at like a 3 to 5 year
Yeah, exactly.
average and seeing if what's budgeted is, you know.
At least making the
Yeah,
average.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
That account can fluctuate greatly.
Yeah, I just figure if we can plan for it better, then we should do that.
Thanks, Ed. Last time, I believe, the fire chief came and gave an update on purchases and that sort of thing. We talked about having the highway superintendent come and
Yep.
talk about snow and where he's at with his budget and all that sort of thing. Can that be on the agenda for one of the next meetings?
Yes, I probably would have actually done it for this meeting, but Randall is off in Iceland
Oh, wow.
right now. Enjoying a little vacation. But, you know, for someone that's been working 60 and 70 hours a week, removing snow, what the traction was to go to Iceland, I'm not sure, but I will make that happen for the next meeting.
And do we have a schedule of the major department heads as we go forward? Because we wanted to do that rotating.
I will develop one.
Yeah, if we
for
can
you.
do that.
Sure.
Great, thanks.
Moving right along, old business community use of town hall facilities policies. This has been redrafted. There's been a couple of highlights given. One of the biggest things was the question of weekends, holidays. Has the board had an opportunity to review this?
I did, my comments are there.
Yeah, I saw Maureen's comments. Just find it here.
The big change, I mean, it basically was a Monday through Friday thing, and I just was asking about the weekends, and the other had to do with, I don't feel that children in town should be charged to use buildings unless, you know, I mean, I think at Norris, they probably, SYA pays for a custodian. But for
believe
people
that's
that, you know, in-town nonprofits, you know, I didn't feel that there should be routine custodial if people pick up after themselves. I don't know if there's been a history of problems or not, but that was my only comment. This original draft had down charging nonprofit groups for using the building.
Do we actually have a lot of people requesting the use of this building? Or is it like just the library?
I have a very limited,
I know.
you know,
Oh, I have a long
history with this, so I'm not really sure what drove it. I can say that in roughly 5 weeks I've been here, I'm only aware of one outside group that was looking for it, and I think it was like for last Friday or Saturday, and they actually ended up utilizing the library instead. But I'm not sure what the, you know, if there has been a lot of desire and requests, and that's why this request was brought forward, or?
I think it was because a couple groups used this. There was a lot of noise and everything during the day. And wanted to be a policy developed so that, you know, normal business can go on in the town hall without being disrupted by people in here.
And it's an interesting piece, because while this, in its current content, seemed to actually concentrate a little bit more on, shall we say, weekday or weeknight use rather than weekends, it's one of those interesting, shall we say, merry-go-rounds or what have you, because yes, I mean, weeknights is one thing, but if you let the rooms out to outside groups during regular daytime hours, it takes away meeting space from the existing staff, number one, and yes, if they're loud, it can be disruptive. And the flip side of that is you say, okay, well, we're not going to allow it during the daytime, we'll allow it nights or weekends, but then you've got the issue of how do they get in, how do they lock up, you know, is there anyone around to police that if they don't behave or they break anything or they leave trash. I mean, you know, one of the things you can always consider, and I know Maureen had brought it up at the last meeting is, well, if you're gonna charge people a deposit, how do you go about that? Is it consistent, or how do you decide that? Yeah, I mean, you could do a policy that either doesn't necessarily charge a deposit, or you could say, okay, we're going to charge a deposit to, everyone, whether it's $50 or $100, if you leave the rooms in the same condition that you found them in, take your trash away, what have you, then you get your deposit check back. If they're unclean and have to be cleaned, we keep the deposit check. So there's a few different ways to look at that, too.
Given the volume that I'm seeing here of requests, why don't we just keep this simple and just do this as a case-by-case basis? If somebody requests the use of a room, it goes to the town administrator's office. He gets the information, gives it to the board at the next meeting, and then we decide.
Can we truncate that? And why does the board have to see that?
Then why don't we just...
We want to get away from that type of stuff.
Give it to the town administrator, he's full-time.
Yeah, the only issue is it's subjective.
Yes, but given the volume,
Yeah, we can try it that way.
I'd rather just try that instead of writing more regulations.
Yeah, make it simple.
So day, nights, weekends, it's open for everything? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is if somebody requests the use of the building, they meet with you, and you decide, based on your experience, if this is something reasonable. If they want to use the building on a Friday night for a dance, I would look at that as unreasonable.
But that's perception. Your perception and my perception may be two different things.
Yeah, that's where the
And,
subjective.
and I get into trouble when my perception may be different
That's what
from
they say.
the board's perception.
Politician, you're in trouble any way you go. I mean,
Right, that's true.
I mean,
That's true.
I'm just trying to keep this simplified.
Well, the key to what you're saying is simplify this form. Do a one-pager where they
Yeah.
can sign off on it.
Would you like me to try to draft something
I would love that.
of my own and bring it back?
Yeah.
I would love it.
That you're happy with.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will also,
And what you might see out of me is it's actually a document that might have A, B, C, or D in certain spots, and you can say, yeah, we like A, B, or C, or whatever, and we'll just fill in the blanks and go along. But I'll try to simplify it.
one of the things on here, Ed, I think, and I don't know who underlined it, but it says Board of Selectmen and Selectmen's Office. I think the gender there is the issue.
Yeah, that's why I...
Select person, or
underlined it.
you underlined it, yeah. So we can,
As we're editing documents, it
Yeah.
seems like the most appropriate way to do it. I do feel though that people pay taxes and, we can't interfere with the workspace of this town hall.
right.
But certainly if people want to use buildings and there hasn't been any history of problems and they're townspeople, I just don't feel like they use the building.
Well, there's two thoughts along that lines, and these buildings were built for certain usage to last X amount of time.
Yeah.
The more usage you allow into them, the more wear and tear they have on them, the more maintenance they have, and it shortens the lifespan, so it does increase your costs. So that's why you may want to consider a use fee.
I agree with you, Ed. Now, there's other spaces in town people can rent, I'm sure, too.
Do I hear a motion to table this?
Make a motion, we table it and let the town administrator work on a very simplified policy and procedure to bring back to us when he's ready.
I'll say that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. New business. Zoning Board of Appeals, meeting discussion. We have a memo from them,
Yes, we do.
and for some reason I'm scurrying through this pile and I don't see it.
I didn't
but
see it in my packet.
Yeah. It's,
And I did invite them, and originally they were supposed to be here, but I will read their letter, which came today. Dear board members, to clarify our meeting schedule, we did not meet for a period of time because we encountered the Christmas and New Year's holiday, also several Monday holidays, and our board members had some scheduling conflicts. As a result, there was one constructive permit issued. This was for a new coffee shop and takeout service in the Red Rock shops. The other application was for a duplex home, and the applicant withdrew his application and will reapply later in the spring. The board is hoping to hire a clerk who will handle the newspaper advertisements and abutter notifications. This will be an enormous help to our board. If you have any further questions, please contact me directly. Very truly yours, Ryan Geeler, Chairman.
So my understanding is after 90 days, is that right? When there is appeal, ZBA?
It's actually 65.
65 days, yes.
65 days. So basically, it wasn't reviewed by ZBA because the period of 65 days had already gone by, so basically, it wasn't reviewed. Is that,
That would
Right.
that'd be an accurate assessment.
They have to hold a public hearing and I believe render a decision within 65
Within
days.
And if they don't, it's automatically implied it's approved.
Which could be dangerous.
Well, we've made the board aware. The board's now looking to take and have somebody help them with the paperwork.
Mhm.
So I guess we just keep an eye and see what develops.
Now, how do we keep an eye? How do we find out what's before the board and when their meetings are, just in case we're starting to see the time click by again? Because the board, the board can call, they can call a meeting at any time. It doesn't have to be on a Monday.
If you want, you can go onto the town calendar, put your email address into
Yep.
ZBA,
Yep.
and when they post a meeting, you'll get an email.
That's only when they post a meeting. But if,
If
But-
they file something with the town clerk's office, that doesn't show up in the
Right.
email.
I understand that, but we have a town administrator that's in the building that could take and check like once a week or so with the town clerk and see if there's anything filed.
That is absolutely correct.
Or just pick up the phone and call Ryan. The problem is also that no, people weren't getting phone calls returned. So it's not just not meeting for the last several months, it's also people not getting responses. Similar to the Housing Committee, when we were dealing with that issue. That mail wasn't being picked up, people weren't answering phones, so I'm wondering, I mean, it's a very nice letter and all, but I'm just wondering if there could be some expectation around a consistent meeting.
And the other issue that I saw, I went onto the website, there's no current minutes. I think it goes back to, is the beginning of 16, it's quite a while back. So it's something we should
yeah,
have them address.
it's an important board that,
Are the minutes recorded at the town clerk's office?
No, there's no minutes filed if you go on.
I know,
Yes, she would post them.
but she would post them. They don't want to, okay.
I believe the town clerk posts them, right?
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
so. I think that you'll find that they have to file them with the town clerk, but there's no requirement of posting it on the website.
Okay,
I can check.
Yeah, check that.
Just let Ed, you know,
Okay, Ed.
Ed, you want to put this back on for our next selectmen's meeting for review?
Absolutely.
Do it that way?
yeah, and it's good to have a town administrator. If you
have
can,
no idea.
if you can keep us abreast of what's coming up, that way we can react to it.
Consider it done.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Easthampton Media, presentations, discussions. Is she here?
Yep, sure, sure.
What do you want to do? If I give you enough rope? Get hold of your husband.
Let's line it up. Let's do that.
I'm gonna toss it. Yeah, right here. Got it? I'm glad there's no electricians in the audience.
Good golly.
I saw you down the wires standing up.
All low voltage.
I don't have the control, she does, it's in the drawer, I believe.
Should I just turn the computer around?
Point it at that,
Woo.
all right?
Stand on 1 foot.
Don't knock Barbara's glasses off when you do this. Did it light up? No, look at the projector itself.
There it is.
There you go. Now just stand back.
Oh, that takes a minute to get.
Oh, yeah, that's an old, it's got those vacuum tubes in it.
Oh, it's warming up, yeah.
There you go.
Now you gotta pull the shade down a little bit.
This is a lot more work.
Up gently now, gently.
Okay.
Now you make these little rabbits and animals.
Are we good now?
Oh, you're wonderful. What do you think, Kelly? You did a good job before, huh?
Got it? Sure.
Is there a short topic in the meantime while she's setting up?
So there we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is the community media technology overview. A lot has happened in the last.
Ryan, you wanna knock the lights off?
I'll put this on this side too. There we go.
People see this at home okay now?
You see it on the screen here,
Yep.
that's what's being broadcast.
Okay.
Actually, they can see it at home. What you see over there is what's going out at home. Right now, in that little screen right there, that's what's going out on the TV system right now. So that's what's live on channel 191. We had the box fixed, and so now you guys can see what everybody at home sees.
Okay.
But if we turn it up and you hear it, it'll go squeaky squeak and it'll be horrible. So
Gotcha.
you won't hear it, but you'll see it. Anyway, a lot has happened in the last year. We built a new facility in Easthampton for both communities, which is really exciting, and I'm hoping that everybody on this board can make it sometime in the next couple of months down to see it, because it's literally for both communities. But the brief organization of our history together as the two communities is, before 2014, we served as a vendor for meeting coverage and a la carte services, and I just thought this is almost a whole new board, so I just thought a summary would be helpful. In 2014, we formalized a relationship as access provider. In 2015, we renewed as access provider. In 2016, at the end of the year, Southampton negotiated a new charter license, which funded access and also provided capital monies to the town for capital improvements to the cable system, to the access cable system. In 2017 also, we built a new facility serving both communities as a cultural media center focused on community engagement and digital creative expression. And then ahead, we're looking to, this year, we would like to focus on the town of Southampton, upgrading all the systems, implementing the new systems so that your government is up and running, and then find ways that we can interface creatively with the community to figure out what the public access needs are. And so that's been the history of sort of where we've been and where we're going. And if anybody has any questions, just interject. So in order to upgrade the town, here's the wiring infrastructure that you guys need. We had connection points through the contract installed at the Edwards Library, at the Norris School, and also here. So the 3 points of origin in Southampton will all aggregate in the basement of the town hall. And that was a way that we designed to save the town money, because the difference is that we don't have to send fiber runs all the way back to their hub. We send short fiber runs back here and then the one. And we're not gonna, chances are likely that we're not gonna need to broadcast live 3 times in one night at the same place. So that's probably a non-option. And if we had to, we could work around. We could.
People need to understand that prior to this, we only had this one connection. That was live.
In the basement, yep, and that's it. And that's it. So in the basement of the town hall, we'll have a receiver. The other thing that we're doing, I'm gonna back up just a second, have a little, every place where there's a little red star is where it transmits over fiber. Every place where there's a little green diamond is where the fiber is received. And then the switch ports are the hexagons. So we have an origin point at the Edwards Library, which could be connected from the park or whatever, as long as it connects in the building. We have 2 sites at the Norris School that are internally connected, and then 1 master would come out. So we would be able to take feed from either the library or the cafetorium, but not both at the same time. And then that gets, which is how town meeting went out live. The equipment that's currently in there will be upgraded. Charter just put in a quick patch analog transmitter, so, and we don't want that, we want SDI. So we'll replace that for a very nominal equipment cost of like $100, which is at least twice the quality. Once everything aggregates in Town Hall, we'll have a switch port that we can control, and then we'll send whichever origin point back to Easthampton Media to our hub, and then it goes to Chicopee from there to go out. And that's, I just wanted everyone to have kind of a clear picture of how the technology was going to flow. And also because if anything goes wrong, and anyone wants to go down to that basement, anyone can see exactly what it is. So, not that I want you to do that, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to touch it, but just in case of emergency. So now, the other thing, so that's how everything that comes from Southampton is going to get out to the cable system, but in terms of how things are going to get into the cable system, we have our individual meeting rooms, which is the two big meeting rooms are this one and at the Norris School. And so I just wanted to give a quick report of the options that we looked at for school committee. Now, I'm going to say that as somebody who has been looking and vetting camera technology and government technology equipment for a long time, the longer you wait, the better the price. It's really like unbelievable. Things that we put in the system, much like this system in Easthampton, I think 5-6 years ago, and for the same amount of money, I could have like a beautiful 4K studio today. I mean, we couldn't even get cameras for under $8,000, so we had to get the smallest, yuckiest cameras. Now you get 1080p HD SDI cameras for $1,600. So up there on that slide, I have, oh wait, that's the wrong side. So the system that we're looking at for the Norris Library for school committee meetings is a different system than what we're looking at here. The system that I'm looking at is a system called the One Beyond Collaborative AVS Full HD PTZ Pan-Tilt Zoom camera system. And that's an automatically switching system. It doesn't require an operator to run the meeting. It switches by the AVS microphone system, which designates and recognizes automatically the switch, and it will change it. So you take it and you preset it. Now, we took pictures of the school committee to see how big the membership is. It's not a terribly large board, and when they have engagement, they have it from not so far away. So it's not a big spread of a meeting. So that kind of a system could work really well. And then depending on staffing, when they're having meetings or whatever, who's available or not available, their meetings can always get recorded and just go off without a hitch. And we can, collaborate with the schools to make sure that they're documenting that record, because the town does have a strong, it pays them a fair amount in their tax burden to their budget. So the other option for a system, which is a quick and dirty option, is there's another camera called the OWL, which is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's actually very cool. It's incredibly inexpensive. It's about $850. It's a USB camera that sits in the center, and it's a 360-degree camera that will record. The top of the screen will record everybody in a distorted sort of picture around the table, but it will put whoever is talking and engaged in dialogue on the screen. And that you have to run with a computer. So, but the piece itself. So, it'd be nice to kind of sit down with somebody, maybe a designated person, and kind of go through some of the options so the town can kind of look at what the investments are. They're all going to, this is the cheap option versus the Rolls-Royce option for a school committee. It depends on when you want to budget that and how you want to spend that money. I don't really know. I was asked to look into all the systems, and so this is what I come up with for the best options. For the school, that is probably the best possible solution because of the frequency with which they meet. We have Monday meetings in Easthampton and Southampton. We have Tuesday meetings in Easthampton and Southampton. If there's ever a double, that meeting can always be recorded.
So in the OWL one, does it permanently sit there, or does somebody have to bring it every
You
meeting?
have to set it up. But it's literally, it's a camera, it's USB, plugs into someone's laptop, and goes, and you're done.
Is it similar to the one upstairs? Where
No.
you just hit a button to start it?
No, it's a very different piece of equipment. The process is the same, but folks seem to have a hard time with the system upstairs too. So I actually have a different system that I'm proposing for that. But, so let's go there. So those are kind of like the options for school committee. Just kind of a financial overview-ish. What we're looking at is like the select board room. We're looking at upgrading the cameras and the switcher, basically upgrading everything to SDI, the HDSDI. And I actually have harder estimates now. But what I was looking at is we need a new switcher to be able to handle the camera streams, and we need a camera upgrade. We're going to need some engineering upgrades too. But then there's also this thing called, it's a streaming encoder box, and it's hardwired. And so before I would commit to this kind of a technology, I would really encourage the board to think about what the implications are, because basically what this enables me to do is to take those cameras that are stationary, wire them into the box, wire them into a wired network, and access them online, which means when your subcommittees are meeting upstairs, I can tell it to record. You know, and thus far, that's a very different kind of situation than everything we build out and said we were going to give people. So it's a different kind of thing. You could stream out that meeting when it's supposed to happen, and it's just done. I can get it in the morning from my stream host and take it in and process it and turn it around quickly.
So
I feel really short here.
so
Sorry.
if the finance committee, just to pick on the finance committee, posted a meeting for 8 o'clock in the evening, the camera would go on at 8 o'clock,
The camera would stay on, but it would start recording at 8 o'clock.
and then it would shut down. How would you know?
I would set it for a 3-hour meeting or a 4-hour meeting, and then I would chop off the rest of it. I mean, that's how we set our encoders. This meeting right now is probably encoded for 3 hours. It won't go 3 hours, but then we trim it, which is why it takes a little bit longer to turn around, so you don't miss, so you're never missing. Which is why we always freak out when the meeting goes longer, because we have to go back in and reprogram and encode. So, because you don't want to miss it.
So this funding is available in our PIG grant.
This funding is funding that is available right now. The town should have received, and please confirm it if you haven't, should have already received $50,000 as of, I think, December 2016, should have received the $50,000, or as of March 2017. So it should be sitting in your PEG account right now, because we haven't spent any of it.
Plus another 20 grand or so.
Well, there was leftover money from the PEG, but that's not earmarked for capital. This particular money, the 50,000 and then 50,000 in year 6, that's earmarked for capital. So you can't give it to someone for salary, it has to go to capital until you've depleted your capital. This is capital.
I wasn't thinking about giving it to salary.
No, I know, I just,
Ed, you want to verify it's there? I believe it's there, but no one notified me that it came in. Also, the way that contract's written, in another 5 years, we get another 50,000.
Could I ask a question about this room? We've consistently heard about problems with the microphones. Is that part of the upgrade?
so we can add audio. My first issue with the upgrade in this room is the cameras and the switching system. Because I think that the cabling and the cameras contribute to a problem. I'd like to kind of redo how the audio goes in there, but the microphones and everything else is fairly new. So I think that the audio problem that's been coming out of this room has been kind of a double problem, so it's been really difficult to isolate, because everything that we were adjusting, the feedback that we were getting and what we were adjusting for didn't seem to make a big difference until we involved Charter, and then they actually had a big adjustment to make in their head end. So they actually jacked up the entire channel by 5 decibels, and I have no idea why it needed, because it hadn't changed. And I don't know if there was some kind of a signal change when we moved into the new location, although we didn't experience any of that for Easthampton. So it's still a bit of a technical mystery, but I'm glad it's worked out. So in terms of that, I mean, the only thing I would really do in this room is, well, everybody has their own microphone. You could maybe add an extra microphone, but that's about it. Other than that, as long as you speak into the microphone, you should be okay. You could swap it out with different microphones. But again, I think that, like, from what I've seen of things that are audio challenged under this room, it seems to be more of a user issue than it's specifically an equipment issue. And if that means that folks got to lean in, or if we got to get microphones come out a little bit more so it's more central to the voice, it's usually pretty audible, unless there's a general, level problem, and then nobody can hear anything. And then it doesn't matter what anybody says because nobody's hearing it except in the
When I
recording.
listen to meetings on my computer, the volume's at maximum and it's not real loud. So I think there is a problem with the audio, and it's not just the microphones, I think. There's also been some problems that I've heard. I know that when Robert did the moderator, there was no sound at all on that particular. So I've
Well,
heard.
that was, yeah, because there was a 6-week, we were getting feedback, and then we go and test sound, and it seemed okay, and then it wasn't okay, and then we would, 1 minute it would seem like it was okay, and then we would test it again, and then we would go live. So it took a while for us, honestly, to figure out what that problem was, because there's a lot of different things that can go wrong in the wiring loops, and we're not engineers, so at the point where I'm ready to get an engineer and have them go through the whole loop and trace it down, we contacted Charter as kind of a last-ditch effort, and I don't really understand why, because I didn't get an explanation why they had to jack up 5 decibels our cable signal. But that's a systemic jack. It's not a tweak. It's not one room, or that's the entire town needed to be jacked up from our origination of 191, not your other stuff. So I can't speak to that specifically, except that what I would hope is that whatever is happening in this room, that somebody's conveying it, or if something needs to be jacked up louder, that someone's just communicating that clearly with us, because if we don't know, we don't have time to watch all the meetings. I never watch Southampton Selectboard meetings because I have so much other stuff to do. I mean, if there's a specific issue I want to catch up on, mostly like everybody else, I'll watch a section of a government meeting. So yeah, if send me those meetings or reference them, and then we can address them pretty systematically, because some of the meetings we've actually had to pull off, edit, jack up, sound process, and then put back on because we're concerned and we couldn't isolate the problem. I mean, even our encode was like almost inaudible. It was ridiculous. So, but I think it's addressed now.
What is the best way if we're at home and we see that there's no audio coming? Is there a phone number that can be called?
So yeah, our phone number, yes, and actually in the next week we'll have a tech support extension activated. So it'll be like, if you're experiencing a problem, press, make believe this is real, but it won't be the right extension, but 7, and then that 7, when you leave a message, it automatically transcribes it and sends an email to the person on. So that's another way that we thought of to try to be responsive to problems, because you guys you are farther away. I live in Montague. If I get a complaint at 7 o'clock and I'm at home, I can't do much about it at that point. Some people are local and I could communicate it, but usually by the time I find out there's a problem, it was 4 days ago, and then I guess I feel bad because I feel like we weren't as responsive as you were hoping, but you can only be as responsive as you can knowing about it. So, any other questions before I move on? Okay, so that was just kind of like some rough estimate costs. So the Aja Hilo is a separate hardware. What would also need to go in with that is a network drop. I estimated a cost at about $1,000 for an IT professional, but it could be a lot less. I don't know where the drops are in this building. So it would involve a box in this room, a box upstairs, and a box in the break room maybe, or you might want to have people not meet in that room anymore. I don't know. And what I would like to do also is maybe establish kind of a protocol for vetting the estimates too, now that we have a permanent town administrator, and like what that process is, because I've done it at different stages with different TAs on different levels of hire. And so it would be great to start to develop that relationship so that we can do good work. So the next thing is, okay, timelines. So once we decide on what our equipment package is, it's about 3 weeks from order to install. So, if we decided this week, it would be about 4 weeks from today that we could have this room done, and maybe I'd want to wait an extra week and start the other room the week after or something. So the timeline is like decision plus a little under a month. So, and then the other thing with so this year was a really busy year. We built a facility. It's pretty awesome. I know I already said you guys have to come down, but you really do have to come down. It really kind of ups the game for this community too. And so I'm kind of hoping and expecting that some folks from the local Southampton government will take a proactive role in maybe doing some outreach with the town about what's going on in the town. And we're here to produce that with you and help you with that. But it would be great. I know that the mayor in Easthampton is going to start a regular update. It'd be awesome to have both communities doing regular updates, even if it's just once a month, and here are the things coming up, or these are the things we want to think about, or maybe some deeper issues. I'd like to see the state rep come in, Peter Cocott, and maybe do some deeper discussion about civic engagement. So it's like really, it's as much as you want it to be, this program, it's as much as you want to put into it, and you'll reap what you get. You know, I think that it'll be good. As far as what we would like to do in the community for the upcoming year, I talked to Elisa about doing a program directory. So what we're trying to do with the Norris School is a series of little digital storytelling projects, not about the students, but about the programs at the school. So for example, what you would expect for your kindergartner in kindergarten. What things that you would cover in learning and what the objectives of that year is, and maybe something about the philosophy of teaching of kindergarten. And then first grade would move on to, and so on and so on and so on. So that we're building a program that's relevant to the community, but we're also building a digital presence for the school that's helping them to explain and outreach their message to the people that attend the school. We also want to maybe get in there in the summer, do a little more live coverage of events. We would like to build the huge movie night thing, and actually I'd like to start it this year at the school. We'd like to kick it off at the end of the school year and maybe see if we can do a fundraiser with them. So Elise and I talked about that. At Easthampton Media on March 10th, we're doing a Southampton Easthampton Red Blue workshop, which is really fun. If anybody would like to be an observer, come see me. I'm one of the coordinators. So does anybody know about the Red Blue Workshop? So the Red Blue Workshop is it's an event that's sponsored by a nonprofit organization called Better Angels, and they seek to acknowledge the divisiveness in our country and find ways of moderated dialogue to bridge some of that divisiveness, and to try to bring people, find commonalities between peoples and bring those perspectives together, not to convince, not to change minds, but to build bridges and find commonalities where people do agree so that communities can start to heal. So we're doing one of those. It's really exciting. It's on March 10th. What else is going on? I'm not following the government outreach development. Oh, the elections. There's an election coming up. And we'd like to do some debates. So when people pull papers, if people pull papers.
What kind of negativity is that?
Sometimes, sometimes you don't have a race, and sometimes you do.
Yeah, but I think,
Remind me when I go over her contract with you.
well,
Yeah.
last year we had a debate of the candidates for select board. I remember that was good. Was that
No, we
It
did.
was a candidate forum night.
There was a candidates forum night.
Meet the Candidate Night? Yeah, that was good. That was televised, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
That was very good, yeah.
It was, but we did like 5 or 6 of them for for all the offices in Easthampton. So there's no reason why we couldn't do a few debates for here, depending on how deep the issues are and how people want to get into them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a
So-
good year to do it.
And the last plea to the Southampton community is if anyone has creative projects, come down and talk to us, because there's a lot of people with creative projects. There's a lot of people that want to do cannabis education lately. There's a lot of people that want to do art. There's a lot of people that want to get involved in community events, and there's a lot of people that want to participate in civic dialogue. And so we're developing programming around civics now. I'm trying to develop a program with some professors at Westfield State to see if we can create an adult learning extension for civics, specifically civics, municipal structures, and how you can be a responsible citizen and taxpayer, that kind of stuff, so that we can hopefully work on avoiding the conspiracy theories that don't really exist, because it will all come from a broader base of knowledge. So I think it helps communities too. So what else? Is that the end? That is the end. It was not too bad of a PowerPoint.
Hey, Brian, hit the lights, please.
So I imagine you all have some questions. What could I answer for you?
Well, it sounds like you need somebody from this board to help you go through the desire of what the purpose to set these rooms up.
It would just be, I would like to proceed with the town's kind of like knowledge in place, you know, like I would just like to proceed in partnership with the town rather than me just I can make the decisions, I'll be doing that in the other community, but this is like a new process for us, so I think it would be more helpful if we're selecting these things and say like, this is why we're selecting this, and there's a rationale, which is probably more efficient for me to explain to one person to disseminate rather than sit here for 4 hours going over product specs. And so I would like the government here to feel like they're in the loop, that they're empowered because it's their money, and that they can feel like they've provided an appropriate fiduciary and oversight. That's pretty much it. I mean, I don't need your help, but I want your help.
You have a way of phrasing things.
I'm a wife.
Just FYI, we have a town administrator.
Yes, I heard about him.
Bring it on.
Well, it doesn't have to be the chair. It could be any member of the
Right.
board who has an interest in what's going on.
I was just wondering if Greg or Virginia, you're on the school committee at Norris. Did you have an opinion about what she had said relative to the local school committee meetings?
I've sort of watched them from the outside.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly be no problem for us, you know, with the less expensive, you know, putting it into, you know, the center of the horseshoe there to get the best view, but it sounds like maybe a more robust system might be better for the overall aspect of, you know, as far as the long-term, you know. I'm certainly technically capable as far as setting that up, hooking up to my laptop, all that sort of stuff, but I'm not sure if you're always going to have an individual at the meeting who's going to fall into that category. I mean, I know there's other computers in that facility nearby, and it's well wired, wireless. I'm not sure what the nearest network drop is.
Honestly, the best case scenario would be for you guys to do your meetings like here and not in a different building, because it would be a $12,000 in, you know, sheer cost savings to the town. I mean, but, I mean, that's where you, like, this is where you start to get into it, because I got, what my challenge is there's $50,000 and I have to build all these systems because of the disparate sort of way that government happens here, versus if everyone just conformed to where they're supposed to meet, that's 2 or 3 systems, and that's 2 or 3 problems, not 12, or not multiple systems from multiple vendors that fit a specific, you know, use.
When we worked on that contract originally, we recognized the fact that we had these different pods throughout the town, and we were trying to give the general public access to these meetings because they were so all over the town. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get these groups to come to a meeting here. I don't think, personally, this is the only large meeting room we have, and it does get booked up, so I think that we'd be conflicting with all that. If we have another meeting.
It might be. I would encourage the school department to look at something like, so here's an example. If the school board met in the cafetorium instead of in the library, then the system that we put in for the school board also covers the system for town meeting, also covers a system for kids' performance, also covers a system for school events. And then it's turnkey, plug and play, done. You know, so it's like, when you know that you have limited resources, it's hard to try and cob different systems together. They're going to function on a certain level, you know, because you're going to have to replicate that here, or just so efficiency-wise, that makes sense. I'm not trying to suggest that the entire town of Southampton has to adjust because the cable lady wanted them to, but I'm saying I might want to look at that in terms of the expense and the management of those systems.
Yeah.
Does the board have a problem having Beck as liaison with this? Because that was on the whole committee that put together the contracts.
I mean, it makes sense, but I mean, if you can go into the cafeteria and do it, you got a good system, and that 12 grand or whatever we can use for something else for the town.
No, it has to be used for cable.
Well, for cable, but somewhere else in the town for
Yeah,
cable.
Well, I know, but people are listening, and when you say
Oh,
something like
yes.
that, the next thing is.
Cable
They got
related.
12 grand, they're hiding. No, it's not true.
It's like conspiracy.
Yeah.
Microphone, please.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Cindy Palmer, 71 Glendale Road, and I'm a member of the trustees of the library. I just want to clarify, are the library trustees the only group that meet at the library that require the filming aspect? Is that the only group that we
The
know of?
purpose of setting up the library, when we put the contracts together and the funding, was to be able to use the library for other boards and committees to meet.
Okay,
It was to give them an access point.
okay. Because what I was going to ask is, what would be the savings if you kind of took the library out of?
Well, the
that?
library is out, so that's actually, would be good save, it wouldn't be any, it would be a net zero change, because we're not proposing to put a multi-camera system in the library. What the library has is a cable connection where we can connect to the cable system and send everything back to the hub.
I see.
So, for example, if there was a ball game, if it was the All-Star Little League ball game, and we could get the cabling out there, we could actually send that live over the air.
We're talking about the library
I'm
at
talking
the
about
North,
the
the
public.
library on East
Oh, I'm
Street.
sorry, I'm talking about the library, Edwards.
You're talking about the Edwards Library, right? We were talking about the Norris
Well, I
Library.
know, and I'm asking a new question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, repeat it, I didn't
I
understand.
apologize. Okay, so what you're saying is that the original plan was the library, Edwards Public Library, could be used for more than just trustees meeting.
Right.
Therefore, my question is kind of moot. I was asking, are they the only group that meets? But no, you're saying others will.
The idea was to set this up so that it'd actually be a meeting room here that could broadcast, obviously. Second floor town hall. The multipurpose room was sort of a backup that's in this building. The library was gonna be key, the library at Norris School and the cafeteria at Norris School. Because those are where usually the committees all get together, town meeting is, all the rest of that. That's why when we worked out our plan originally, that's what it was for. And the bonus at having it at the library on East Street was the capability of taking and moving down the road with sporting events in the Little League fields down there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Clarification for me. I understand.
The purpose is maximum flexibility for whatever comes along. So you try to plan for all of the things that you might want to do. It's like doing a kitchen, right? And eventually what happens is you build your kitchen and you say,
Go out for dinner.
you go out for dinner because you don't like where you put that trash can. I really wish I put the trash can on this side. I mean, there's always something, right? There's never a perfect building project, but basically we tried to look at worst case scenario, what would be the most amount of stuff you could possibly ever want, and then that's what was asked for. So what else can I answer for you?
So I don't have an issue with you being the liaison, I guess was your question.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
I've been sort of running behind this thing for the last 3 years as it is. So, and they have no problem letting me know when they can't be heard, or we can't be heard.
I think it's mostly you, Charlie, just so you know.
Is that what it is?
That's what
It is you, actually. You're the one they complain about the most.
I know.
So, just for the record.
That's the other time saying anything.
Well, you got the job.
Thank you. Another field promotion. Well, Kathy, unless there's something else, thank you.
Yep, I sent you a bunch of documents, right? You can just stick that in the file, all the good financials and stuff.
Yep, they're in the Dropbox and they're in your packets, so.
I sent you more today, but for some reason the email, it bounced back 3 times.
Hey, Kathy,
Yes, sir.
I think that's your lightning connector.
John, use that.
I have one in my bag.
Just drop it, Kathy. Just drop it. Kathy, drop it. Don't roll it up. Drop it. I'm gonna be rolling it up at this end. You know how many years I've had to tolerate her? She had me years ago put a camera on my back and go into the underground water tank in Easthampton when they had a contamination problem. It was like the Indiana Jones movie with the concrete columns going 40 feet in the air. And I'm going down this 40-foot ladder to film all the stalactites and stalagmites that are in the thing. Anyways, back in the day.
Back on the podium.
Are you all through damaging stuff?
If you're done with me.
I'm done with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, Hampshire Regional School Budget Request Discussion.
you should have it in the Dropbox and in your packets. I was a little bit shocked when I actually saw it. It entails a roughly $300,000 increase over the fiscal year 2018 assessment. And it appears that the biggest portion of that comes from what looks like an estimated $272,539 increase in their health insurance costs.
Did they change their health insurance benefits?
No.
Why such a large increase? I know, but I know we're not seeing those large increases. Is there another plan that they can offer that would keep the cost down? Does anybody look at that?
Well, whoever's are assigned to the contract negotiations there should keep that in mind.
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway, Hampshire Regional School Committee. I was not at the last meeting, but I am part of the finance, and that cost was, because it hasn't gone up in like 5 years, it went up, and when it jumped, it jumped. This is the health insurance that is given to all the town areas, the regional areas that is offered, and they have a group. This is the cheapest they've been able to go with.
Gotta wonder if it's time to reevaluate the offerings. I don't know what they are, but
The last contract negotiation with the teachers, we had brought that up about possibly changing health benefits.
Right.
And many people were upset with us.
oh yeah, it's not an easy topic to bring up, but
Yes.
a necessary one to look at.
Well, the correct way to look at that, and no one likes to do it, is that is a piece of the compensation package. So unless you include that in how the compensation's going up and the salaries are going up, it's an incomplete talk.
Yes.
So this basically wipes out any new growth in this town.
That does.
I'm not blaming you, Tammy, don't.
Well, no, see, the unfortunate part is I didn't see what they actually approved, because I was home with this flu.
I heard about that.
And so I don't know what was actually approved. I only know from my last notes of what we were going to present to the group to be voted on. So I don't, unfortunately,
You know, this is another situation in this town. We're trying to take and make government more transparent here, but we're looking at a school budget that's what, 60% of our budget?
Well, both of them together.
Both of them
Both of
together,
them
right.
together. So we have this huge missing link that we have no contact with, except for a couple of members on that committee.
mhm.
And if one of them is sick, which we all get sick,
Mhm.
we have no representation. And the voting takes place, and we're committed, because it's a district, to fund it.
Correct. That's why I had let them know early on that Southampton has actually 6 voting members on the board. And I had said at a meeting, what if all 6 Southamptons say no to any updates and we go level funded or level serviced? And there were other towns that were like, oh, you can't do that. And it's like, well, if we all work together, we can start in at a low level funded, level serviced area without all these added things. And that's what Kristen was going at. The things that we have on this listing for the budget is the bare minimum stuff that they need.
This is going to strip all of the town departments, including the Norris School.
Yeah, there won't be an override for Norris if we have to do this. Nobody's gonna wanna pay for all that plus.
Well, basically between, of course, we haven't seen the Norris School, but we know verbally what they were ballparking.
Right.
Currently, between this and that and the other budgets that have come in, we're realistically looking at a $750,000, $800,000
But most of it's,
deficit.
most of it's for the schools.
$700,000 of it is from the schools, where we generate only $300,000 in new revenues for next year.
So technically, this could shut down the rest of the government so that we can fund the school.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, well, we did have several out-of-district school people leave the area, so we didn't have those expenses this year. That was a $250,000 that we had to pay out last year
So
for one
it
student.
still went up. So if you took that 250 again this year, you'd be up
Yeah, even more.
800,000.
So that brings us right into the other topic of the 2019 proposed 2.5 override and special election. which
Thanks,
comes-
Tammy. Sorry.
I wanted you to stay there, but you know,
I'm sorry. Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway.
which comes up to, we obviously have to have an override. Now I'm hearing $750,000 out of line, and we have to make a decision very soon as to what the dollar amount's going to be for this override. If the conversation before was 500,000, and we thought that would sort of bring us through, but we're still looking at a $250,000 shortfall if we do that. So I'm looking for input, comments from everybody in this room. Thoughts? How do you want to approach this?
We really need to show where and what this money's being used for. Just saying a ballpark number doesn't work. We have to, okay, if we don't get this amount, this goes, that goes, this goes, that goes, gone. Those services are gone.
So we are looking at a Plan A and a Plan B for town meeting.
This HRHS budget is going to determine what Plan B is. Because if we don't get Plan B, Plan A is the regional has precedence over it, because as long as they get 4 out of 5 votes, we've got to fund it. So it's just going to push everything aside into Plan B. And I hate to say this, but we're saying we're giving it to the regional, but if we don't get Plan B, all these others are getting nothing.
Right.
And that's not a good way to do it. We've talked about it for years. We can't have one particular department,
Take all of the fall.
take all. I mean, it's education is important and all that, but still, it's the tail wag, well, not even tail wagging the dog, that's not the right way to put it, but we've got to figure out a way to do this. Now, is there a chance that 4 of the 5 towns won't vote that way? I don't know, Depending on the increases the other towns get, and historically, we've seen them small, so they don't,
No, they're actually large.
Well-
Goshen and Chesterfield have been hit with a huge amount this year.
so that may be where the things start to change. Because if
Yes.
3 towns say no, then
Yeah.
it won't happen. We've got to go back to the drawing board.
And then they start cutting
So we should
people.
try to meet with the other towns' select boards, or at least members of the select board, to talk about this at our level.
Get an idea what they're feeling.
Right. I think it's important to all be on the same page.
Yeah, it's devastating.
Is that, Ed, what's your thoughts on us being able to do that?
I think that's a good first step.
Okay. Is that something you can try to arrange for us? Even if we have to travel, or they travel here?
Yeah, I can reach out to the other select
I
board
think that'd be great.
offices.
Sooner the better, maybe we can talk and,
I think Dr. Jurgensen attends, or knows when some of those meetings are also, that he might be able to help you.
Okay. I'll reach out to Craig.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so.
I wonder if a remote mic would
I was
be
just
able
thinking
to
the same
do
thing,
that.
a wireless one that.
Barbara LaFlamme, 20 Cook Road. Tammy indicated that the town of Southampton has 6 votes. I wondered how our representatives to the Hampshire Regional Board voted, and I remember years ago, we took an in-depth look at the structure of the regional, because back then the law changed and it was based on the number of students that each municipality had. And it was weighted votes, it wasn't just a straight vote. Different members on the boards from communities had weighted votes. I wondered if that's being followed through, because it all depends. Southampton has more clout than we think we do, but we need to get into it early, before the votes are taken, or as the votes are being taken by the regional committee.
how many members on the committee, school committee?
I believe there's 18.
So we're a third.
We're 50, last year we were 53%.
No, the members on the school committee, we have 6 out of 18. Yeah,
But
we're
it-
like 53, 60, 55% or something like that. Yeah, we'll get the 1 vote.
But are the votes taken weighted, or are they just one person?
Just 1.
But they should be weighted. We have that authority.
Yeah,
Not that
I remember reading the report from, I think, 2010 or 11, and it wasn't weighted votes, but the representation percentages are supposed to change as
Right, it's a
your,
rolling
as,
average.
right, as your student population changes.
Right, it's all,
And they are not following that methodology, so
That's right.
technically, Southampton does not have the representation under the new model that it should have.
So can you look into that for us?
Well,
Because,
it means either fighting to change the agreement,
yeah,
okay, that's step number 1, or I'm gonna throw it out there and you can start throwing things at me, or the next step after that is to consider withdrawing from the
Yep.
district.
I'm actually looking at the agreement. I've been looking at that. Now with this, I gotta, think, spend more time, so maybe we should get together on that.
Absolutely, I'm up for that.
Are Worthington students considered school choice in?
They pay a higher tuition to come than the school choice kids.
They do.
Yes,
Why is that?
that's what we negotiated with their contract.
It also guarantees them the seats instead of having to be in potential jeopardy as well.
Yeah, it may be time to relook at how we do this.
You want to continue this for next selectmen's meeting?
Absolutely. Everyone, we should have it on the agenda so we can talk about it as Ed and I get some information.
Ed, you want to make sure it gets on the agenda?
Absolutely.
And when is this vote scheduled to happen?
For all the towns, it's during the election.
March 5th.
March 5th?
For school committee.
The next school committee meeting is March 5th. When's the formal vote of the regional budget?
I don't know that.
Okay, it's going to be soon, though.
Yeah.
Can you find that out and get it back to us? Thank you.
Sir?
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. When you mentioned the date, I immediately went to what you were talking about, having the 2.5 override election date. We're losing nearly a month because of the new date for the annual town meeting, which is now May 1st. There was talk about having the 2.5 override on April 24, Tuesday, which means you're not probably going to be meeting that night. So then you'd be meeting on April 17th, which is less than 2 months away. And on around April 17th or so, the warrant needs to be posted for the annual.
The Next agenda item is the election calendar. And I was going to bring up the fact that based on where we were heading with this, we were gonna have the town meeting first and then incorporate the override in the general election.
Oh, okay. But still, we have less than 2 months to get the warrant up. Okay,
I
we're good.
appreciate that
We're on the same-
totally.
We're on the same page.
We're on the same page, Robert. It's just, you got ahead of me.
Can you repeat what you had just said about the?
Well, okay, well, we're gonna continue this until next selectmen's meeting.
Yep.
And that'll be including the 2.5 discussion. The next issue was the election calendar, because we received approval from the Attorney General's office on the change of the bylaw.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Our town meeting is now going to be prior to our election. This will allow people that are in office to still be in office when we go to town meeting. And it will allow us to have our election after that, which will be the most appropriate way of putting that 2.5 override on the election ballot, so that when people are going in to vote, they're voting for everything. So we're filling boards, doing the override in one shot. But what'll happen at town meeting, and this is where the moderator jumps in and corrects me, we're basically going to have 2 budgets that we're going to look to approve contingent on the election. I may have the language wrong, but the meaning is there. And the point is, so that people actually get to see before the election and the override vote, what is going to happen if the vote doesn't pass. It's not gonna be a guessing game of it, we go to the election first, and then we go to town meeting and try to tweak numbers. Because everyone's been asking about giving us solid numbers that we need to vote on, and that'll give everybody solid numbers. Am I correct with that?
Yes, you are.
Occasionally. Good.
All the time.
Thoughts?
Not on this.
Yeah, I think it saves us money for having 2 elections.
Yes, we will save $2,000 for not having that second election.
2,500.
2,500. Do I hear 3,000?
It's money we can use
I
otherwise.
know, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but the reality of it is we're trying to make ends meet here, and we see some serious problems coming forward.
The sooner you can get dates out to people and so that we can get them publicized, so mark this on your calendar to be at.
May 1st is the annual town meeting at the Norris School at 7 p.m. And maybe another night after that. And maybe a third night.
We're on the same page.
May 15th is the annual town election from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Town Hall Senior Center, this building. You wish me to go backwards? April 3rd is the Citizens Caucus. That will be here. March 27th is the deadline to submit nomination papers to the town clerk's office for all these different boards and committees that are elected. And the nomination papers are available presently. April?
March, what?
March 27th is the deadline for submitting
Thank you.
the nomination papers. Barbara?
Submission of articles for the annual town meeting deadline, please.
That has not been set up yet, but if you want an educated guess, we gotta be, what, 30 days out? So I would try to aim for the first week of April. We haven't locked a date in yet, but if the town meeting is May 15th, 30 days, could have,
May 1st.
May 1st.
Yes, or April 1st.
I'm sorry, May 1st. Yeah, so then it's gotta be April 1st. I'm still having a problem with this.
Oh, it's going to get better.
I can see it.
Question for you. Under the May 1st, it says voter registration deadline April 11th. And under May 15th, it says voter registration deadline April 25th. Am I reading something wrong here, or?
That's for people to,
Two different dates, though.
yeah.
So we should clarify which is correct.
They each have their own deadline, 20 days before.
Right, one of them was the election, one of them was the meeting.
For
Right.
voter registration?
Separate ones.
So
Yeah.
that's how it is, okay.
Okay, I'm going to move this forward. Any other business that cannot wait until the March 6th regular selectmen's meeting? Okay. Then I guess we're going to move into personnel change forms. John, you want to read those?
Sure. PCF on-call substitute transfer station attendant, Stephen Dudek. $10 an hour, up to 20 hours a week.
I had asked a question about that. The minimum wage is
Yeah,
11.
minimum
and-
wage is 11, it says here, yeah.
We're a municipality, we're not required to go
Right.
to this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check and make sure that it's exempt.
Yeah, we're
Finance committee already asked me that one, so
Not
we'll double
required,
check on it.
just seems odd that we don't do it.
We
We've
volunteer.
been trying to do it.
What?
We've been trying to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And this is signed off by everybody.
Well, that one wasn't signed off by Highway, I didn't see a signature there.
Finance, Randall Kemp, yeah, it is. He signed it.
Okay, the one I had didn't,
There's another one that he
Yeah,
missed signing.
okay.
Have to track him down for that.
it's actually signed in the second line.
Okay, next one, firefighter Eric Loico. New hire. Emergency, $11 an hour. Will not add to budget. Works part-time for SPD. It's all signed off on. Next one's firefighter Eric Loico for part-time. Same $11 an hour, all signed off. Next one's a paramedic firefighter Kyle Pouliot, emergency. $20.23 an hour, will not add to budget. Signed off by everybody. Next, Kyle Pouliot, part-time, same salary, and signed off by everybody. I don't have Thomas Rice here.
Yep,
Should be in your packet.
I can give you mine if you want it. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, paramedic, firefighter 1 and 2, Thomas Rice. Do the emergency first. New shift, new medic hired to fill immediate shift opening, $23 an hour. Signed off by everyone. Then paramedic, firefighter Thomas Rice, part-time, same hourly, signed off by everybody. I don't want to lose this one yet. I'll make a motion that we accept as announced or written here,
Could I add that you're going to check on the amount of the
minimum.
minimum?
Will do.
All right, I'll second that then.
Discussion? I have a question. If we determine that the minimum should be of $11, are we bringing this back to this board, or are we going to pre-authorize this?
Pre-authorize is the motion.
Yeah.
In the second, right?
The clerk get that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, licenses and permits. Either way, just, yeah, don't put it in that pile. No licenses, no permits. Next things are warrants. I'll read them off. Assigned warrant PD 18-32 for $42,951.70. P 18-32 for $273,028.63. W 18-33 for $75,853.86. That is it on the sheet. Just a note, I saw the treasurer circling the door. I suspect she has more for me to sign, but that'll be for the next meeting. Other documents, Inspector General's notice of appointment of Chief Procurement Officer. Ed, would you enlighten us?
Certainly, although it is in my job description and I do it, if the town wants to do requests for proposals, RFPs, the town would have had to delegate that appointing authority to me, and the select board would have to vote that authority, and the chair would have to sign the form that's in this packet, and we'd have to send it to the Inspector General's office,
So that has to be a separate vote, even though it's in the job description?
even though it's in the job description. You're back to actually that voting that I'm the Chief Procurement Officer, but you're actually voting to sign that form to send to the Inspector General.
Do I hear a
It's-
motion to
it's-
authorize this?
So move.
Second?
I'll second it.
Just a question, Ed, yeah, number 3 where it says full name of person appointing the CPO, you've got an email address, so just in case they kick that back.
What's that?
On number 3 on the application, it says full name of person appointing the CPO, you've got an email address and not a name.
Okay, we can change that.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved unanimously. Get these back so they don't get lost in the pile.
Thank you.
Please give these to Ed. Okay. Minutes approval. December 19th, 2017 minutes and January 9th, 2018 minutes. Has the board had an opportunity to read them?
Yeah, I have a question for John.
Yeah,
Were you at the December 19th meeting?
yeah, that's what I'm just looking up, because I remember all
Well,
this
there's a
happening.
lot of motions made by you that day.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you were there.
Checking my calendar now, because I remember being there.
You don't remember being there?
I was here, yeah.
You were there.
Yeah.
He's not listed as.
But I'm not listed.
Sorry, John.
No problem. Happens a lot with me.
I'm good with the 19th.
So, okay, so the 19th's okay as long as we add John
Yeah.
Martin to the,
Being present, right.
okay. And the January 9th?
I had no issues on that one.
I don't remember any.
Can you look in the new business in the last item? It says, I'm just not sure what that means. Maureen needs to move forward with a technology committee to address IT needs. Residents and employees are encouraged to participate.
We were trying to form a committee to work on IT stuff.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't believe anybody came to us asking to be on the committee.
Okay, but the way it's worded, I would just say, suggests the need to move forward with a technology committee. It just didn't make sense the way it was written. I'll make a motion then to approve both minutes, the 19th of December and the 9th of January,
19th with the change, right?
with the changes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved unanimously. Calendar and announcements, the Selectmen's meeting, next meeting is March 6th and then the 20th. We're back to twice a month. We have an invitation from Worthington to participate in their 250th celebration parade, June 30th. A little early for us to get into that. Do we know if our fire or police are getting involved in this?
Not at this point.
I want to know if we want to have a float.
It's gonna take that long to build the float, that's why they're asking now.
And probably if we know people that have some costumes they could wear on it too.
Well, it starts, it's like a
With-
three, isn't it? a
With
three-day
white
party?
wigs?
Isn't it like a 3-day party? I mean, it
That's a
starts on the,
3-day party.
yeah, if you look, you read it, it starts on the 30th, and the actual anniversary is at the 3rd. Did I read that right? And it continues through that.
I think they're referring to the parade, though.
Tammy, you telling me you're a party animal? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, we should talk about it. I mean,
How about we put this on the agenda for the next meeting and give everyone a little time to sort of think about this and think about the float and the costumes that we could get made for John? Thinking Abe Lincoln myself, but anyways.
He had more hair.
So we got a letter of invitation
wig.
from Worthington that we have to respond to, is that the, is that,
I don't think we have to respond to it, they just, it's an invitation.
okay,
I think we should respond once we talk
Yeah, I
about
think
it, yeah.
some representation might be nice.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a big
we're-
deal for him.
Well, we're looking at June, probably then we'll probably have the new brush truck here. Might be something just to send and,
Yeah, well, a fire truck, sure.
you know?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something go up there.
Maybe some police officers and some representatives from the town. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, as you can see, the articles for Springtown meeting keeps growing. We're doing this purposely by putting it in the selectmen's agenda so the town people can actually see what's coming up on the table for discussion. This does not mean these actually are going to be submitted at town meeting. They're basically a working draft at this point. I am now going to open this meeting up to public. This Board of Selectmen reserves the right of its meetings for public comments and encourages participations as follows. Open time is a time when town residents can bring matters before the Select Board that require a minimum of discussion and are not on the agenda. Please try to keep your comments short and to the point. Plan on being allowed up to 5 minutes per person, not per topic, to speak at any meeting under open time only. If it appears that the topic being discussed will consume longer than 5 minutes allocated, then, at the discretion of the chair, the matter will be placed on an upcoming Board of Selectmen meeting agenda. If you believe your topic will require more time or deserves to make a more formal presentation than is allowed under these guidelines, please contact the town administrator to ask to be put on a future agenda so that we can properly allocate enough time. You are free to ask questions or to make your point for all to consider. However, engaging in active debate with Board of Selectmen or audience members will not be allowed. All comments and questions must be directed to the chair of this board. All remarks must be respectful, courteous, free of name-calling, personal attacks. Inappropriate language will not be tolerated. I haven't read that in a long time, but I thought it was time to review it again. Anyone want to address the board?
April West, 54 Strong Road. Ed, can I just clarify, at the last meeting, a group of us had asked that the Select Board go back to Koppelman and Page and ask about whether or not the town could force the seller of a Chapter 61 tax lien property to give notice of intent. And am I right that Koppelman and Page said that the town cannot force that?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just in a blanket general
Okay.
piece.
Chapter 61, as far as what I understand of it, is the chance for a landowner to get a tax break for open space. In exchange, they give the town the right of first refusal on that land if they ever intend to convert it to residential, commercial, or industrial use. I'm just going to read from the Massachusetts Farm Bureau. Right of first refusal process for land in Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B. Any land that is taxed under one of these three chapters or has been within the last year, that land is subject to the right of first refusal. I'm paraphrasing quickly because I have 5 minutes. What actions trigger a right of first refusal? The sale for conversion or the conversion of land described above to residential, industrial, or commercial use is what triggers the right of first refusal prior to the actual sale or conversion. At what point does a town need to be notified? The town must be notified only if the right of first refusal will be triggered, and they must be notified prior to any sale for conversion or conversion. A landowner need not notify the town if they are marketing a property, nor if they are seeking approvals or in the planning stages of a conversion. Prior to any closing of a sale for that conversion, prior to any actual conversion of the land, the town must be notified of its right of first refusal, and that process, the right of first refusal, must proceed to completion. I'm nervous tonight. What is a sale not for conversion? What is a sale not for conversion? If the land is being sold, it is the buyer's intent at the time of the purchase that will determine. If the land is being sold, it is the buyer's intent at the time of the purchase that will determine if the sale is for conversion or not. This is for both the right of first refusal purposes and for the assessment of rollback taxes and conveyance tax, if any. A seller is strongly encouraged to have the buyer sign an affidavit stating their intentions not to convert the property, if that is the case. This can be used to insulate the seller in the event of any future issue arising from the true intent at the time of sale. If the intent of the buyer is to convert the property at any time in the future, not just within 1 year of being taxed under the program, then that sale is one for conversion. For example, if a buyer purchases the property with the intent to build houses 3 years from the date of sale, this would be considered a sale for a conversion. I'm going to stop here, but I will email this to the board. It's pretty easy, pretty simplified. And I will remind the board again about our master plan and the intent of the Southampton residents to keep this an agricultural town. And that we look at the lands that are in Chapter 61 as being priority lands. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
I've got a question, because I think, at least my point of view, I'm in sync with you folks here. It's just technically, can somebody get around it by buying land and not saying they're going to convert it? And what you just read, April, is even if preliminary plans prior to buying it don't count. But as you're reading, I came up with a thought, and it may be a lonely thought, but if somebody buys land and it's under, and they buy it under 61, 61A, whatever, they own it under 61. They're getting a tax benefit. So then, does that obligation follow them a year down the road? So I own the land under 61, and I'm going to convert it to housing. That almost appears, we got to check it out, that since I'm converting it, I need to notify the town, even though the sale when I bought it was over a year ago. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going on what you're reading, it just triggered it in my mind.
From what I've read, it's prior, the trigger is prior to the sale. So if the assessor's office gets notice of a closing on a chapter land,
Yeah.
that's the trigger.
Yeah.
And it's the assessor's job to enforce that right of first refusal, because they're the ones that have been notified.
But if the conditions are met, and that's where we're going with legal, and they're trying to
Correct. If
determine
the-
that. But the other question is, and again, I don't know the answer, but if I own Chapter 61A land right now and I want to convert it for housing, do I have to notify the town? I'm thinking yes.
Yeah,
So if somebody buys the land and holds onto it for over a year, I'm the owner of record, and then I want to convert it, do I need to notify the town? So I think that's a question we need to send up to legal, because it's a different way of looking at that question.
Well, the other question that comes up relative to this is what constitute intent?
correct.
And I think that's what
That's
also-
where the Sudbury case comes in, yes.
Christina Madsen, 36 Rattle Hill. I will just read from the Sudbury case to April's point. In the notes, it says, "The right of first refusal, designed to preserve the agricultural use of land, would have little meaning if it were triggered solely by the intent of the seller. Typically, it is the buyer's intent that will determine the use of the land for sale." And it goes on. So this case was found that the buyer's intent also weighs in on this.
Yeah, I would think so. But what if the buyer doesn't give his or her intent? Just says, I'm just buying it as is?
Well,
Then a year plus, I mean, it's a rhetorical question, we gotta find out from legal, but,
it actually says that in here, that land doesn't have to be sold. It's the conversion, the intent to convert. So you can own the land. If you choose to convert it, not sell it, the obligation is still there.
okay.
If you read this, you will find it in there somewhere. I will look for it, but it's long and I
I'm just
don't
wondering if
know
the new buyer has that same obligation.
This case found that. And the changes that were made in 2007 do not change the outcome of this case.
I'm personally looking for some kind of loophole that would give us the first right of refusal on these lands. So far, I don't think we've found it, but I think it's important we keep pursuing it.
I'm sorry, I didn't
I
understand
think,
what you said.
I'm looking for some kind of loophole in the law that says we have the first right of refusal on all this land. I don't think we found it yet through the lawyer, but as April was talking,
I
it
would
just
say
made me.
that it's not a
There's no
loophole.
loophole,
Well,
that is what the.
Maybe the loophole's not the right
town
word.
has the
Some
right.
way that
It's
we
not.
can get notification, yeah. Because I think we're all in agreement, if we can keep this land open, it's the best for the town.
Well, let me,
we're being told that if someone purchases the land and does nothing to it for a year and doesn't specify an intent to change it,
Right.
then it doesn't trigger a first right of refusal.
But-
However, if during the course of the year, there is obvious intent through coming to the planning board, coming to various meetings, and making it very clear that there's clear intent to change the land from chapter, then that establishes intent in terms of what Sudbury said.
well, I think that you will find, if you carefully read this, that the intent at any time to convert triggers the right of first refusal. And I also believe that that is indeed what the Koppelman page response said.
Yeah, that's not the way I read it.
Me either.
You know, I wish that there was a law that backed up what the Sudbury case said, because right now it doesn't feel to me like it does.
But there is a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling that makes it, sets a precedent.
If you look at the Koppelman and Page opinion, it specifically says the law has changed since the Sudbury ruling.
Right, the law, it's a year, when before it wasn't a year.
Right.
That's right.
That was a lousy change.
So the question is,
Wasn't,
when-
I'm not saying it was a positive change, I'm just saying that
Right.
Yeah, it's
a
changed.
lane-
Don't- don't
It's a
go-
lane change.
don't go looking at the Sudbury ruling and assuming that that's the case law of
Right.
the law,
I've-
because the law changed.
Right.
Right.
That is true, but I have had a consultation and I was told that it does not change the outcome, the decision.
That's why we hired Copeland and Page to give us a legal opinion. Tammy?
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway. Am I incorrect that once land goes over to, from Chapter 61, and then the town has the first right refusal, the town has to act upon it within 60 or 90 days? And is that really even enough time for a town to get their act together to be able to come up with the money to buy?
You don't have to come up with the money, basically you make an action that you're looking, you have an interest in it,
Uh-huh.
and that opens the door to move forward.
But don't you have to have things done and signed within that time then?
No, you're just a trigger to let them know that you have intent to buy.
Within the
Okay.
120 days.
Right.
Okay,
So it's our intent within that time frame.
It
okay,
doesn't mean that you have to allocate 120 days the funding to do this and sign the deeds. It just means that you're serving notice to the seller that the town wants its first option.
okay.
But the problem is, the way I'm understanding this law, the trigger here is the seller has to notify the town if it's coming out of 61. That hasn't occurred, all these properties. But if you watched the town selectmen's meeting over the course of the last few years, you'd see a number of properties that came out of 61. They were building lots, and I think the last one was up on Pleasant Street.
Mhm.
You know, this is not an unusual occurrence here. It just is now we're talking large tracts of land.
Mhm. And then the other thing that I have for public, I'm going to get my papers,
Okay?
but I'm not running for select board, thank you.
Was that a threat to me?
Kind of sounded like it was a negative job being up here, huh?
I was like, thank you for your endorsement.
So,
I think it'd be cool, you know? Instead of having to banter back and forth here, we could banter this way.
he would just gavel you down, yeah. So before we get off this topic, the thought that I said that I got when April was talking is, so can we go back to legal and say, okay, the land transfers from the seller to the buyer keeps it, buys it under 61A, and a year down the road, they decide to convert it to non-61A use, don't they still have to notify the town? I mean, that's the way it's clicking, so I don't think we asked the question that way. So even with this one-year law, they're still an owner of 61A land. That doesn't stop them. So I think we should ask that question that way, because the process should follow the land and not stop just because it was sold.
Well, they have to notify us, but we don't get first right of refusal at that time.
Why not?
They notify the assessor's office because of the tax
Taxes.
implications,
Yeah.
but not to give the town first right of refusal a year after they bought the land.
But again, they're owners of 61A land.
Mhm.
They're converting it to a separate use. They're gonna build houses on it. So why doesn't that trigger the first right of refusal?
That's the way the law was written.
It
Because they have a year.
No, they don't. It's
No.
No,
more
see,
than that.
I'm looking at it a little differently since April was talking.
No, I have 61, I have land that's under
Correct.
61. If I wanted today to
Yeah.
take and put a subdivision there, which we're not gonna do, okay?
Right, yeah.
Most of our land's protected.
No
from
fake
other-
news going out there, yeah.
All right, no more, but the way that law reads, basically, I would go to the assessor's office, pay the back taxes on it, based on a time year of 10 years. Because every 10 years, that refreshes back to zero.
Okay.
So if I was under it for like 2 years, I'd pay 2 years of back taxes, and then I'd just go forward and build.
Okay, so you don't have to give the town a first right of refusal in that case, which is what would
Right.
happen, okay?
It's only if
Yes,
the
you
property's
do.
being transferred.
Yes, you do.
I disagree with you.
Okay, but can we get a legal opinion based on
I
that?
think you already have that.
Yeah,
legal
I
opinion.
think we
You
are.
think that covers it?
Yeah, I think if you read that 9 pages. I'm
I read it a
trying-
couple times, but
I'm trying to slow down spending our legal budget on the same question being asked.
okay, so let's relook at that then.
Yes, please.
Cheryl, did you want to say something?
Well,
Or Diane?
clearly with the first parcel, Cheryl Fletcher Gun Road, slated to close for April 1st, I think asking the question is important. So I understand about the legal fees, but we have consulted with attorney, we've talked to a lot of folks that, where we know the intent on all 3 parcels, take the first parcel, we know.
Glendale now.
No, the first parcel is former road. April 1st is the closing. So if we wait until March 6th, the next meeting, to get another legal opinion, then, we're going to lose it. So we're going to lose that. So we know right away that there were 4 perks done up there. There are going to be houses on there. So the intent is clear that that piece is going to be sold, at least for, yes, some of it might be preserved, but there are 4 perk tests up there. There are going to, there are plans being made for at least 4 houses. So that is a clear intent to convert. So that triggers it. And we talked to Farm Bureau, and Brad Mitchell said, yep, and that should trigger it. Same thing on Glendale. Now, tomorrow night, at Planning Board, now they've changed the wording a little bit to say informational discussion about a proposed development, but it's clear with it, it's clear that that is under agreement to a builder. They are proposing a development. Again, that is clear intent to convert, that the town has the right of first refusal. And if we don't get it, I really hope that, there's been enough folks that have said this land is so important that legal fees or not, that, we take legal action to preserve this, because I don't think if we don't do it now, this is going to continue. If they didn't tell us and we didn't know, and yeah, that's one thing. But it's very clear on these parcels what the intents are. So we've been told repeatedly that that is the trigger, that the town is entitled to their first right of refusal. So I think if you're going to go back, be really specific so that we don't have to ask the same question twice, so we don't have to use up valuable legal fees. But to say, okay, this parcel, this is what they're saying, does this trigger it? Because it's all 3 are under the same scenario. So.
I feel like from the communication that we got from the attorney, that we were informed that we are not obligated to get a first right of refusal if there's no intent to change it within a year's time, and that they will be providing us additional information in terms of what classifies intent.
Right.
That's my understanding of what they've already provided us. And to ask a more specific question, I think what they're basically saying is to contest this would be by doing what Sudbury did. That basically,
Yeah, but Sudbury won.
Right.
So they're saying.
To ask them again, I feel like I've already got an answer to that question, other than the remaining point around what constitutes intent.
And this goes along with what you're saying about the intent to convert it.
Right, I
So
think
once we
that-
get that response, that'll cover
See, I
that.
think it was more, my understanding was,
Wrap up, because open time for public is 5 minutes on the topic.
I don't think Diane has had a chance to talk.
It's been 20 minutes.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but it's important enough where we gotta get it out there, and, sometimes stretch the rules a little to get out what we need, but do you wanna go up there? Yeah.
Diana Fetterman, Birchwood Drive. Just wanted to ask Mr. Gibson to read again that little short quote from the Koppelman and Page, the last one, about what, they said we needed to have specific intent, or? I think it was in that, yeah.
I have received a verbal response from town council that for the town to request the right of first refusal from a seller of parcels within any of the Chapter 61 designations, the town would need specific evidence of some sort from the purchaser that the property would be taken out of chapter land. The town doesn't have the ability to just blanket solicit the right of first refusal
Okay.
from the
Well, now
seller.
that we have specific evidence, I think we all agree that we have the specific evidence, I would like to ask the board to request the right of first refusal on these lands. I think it's clear, you've got the opinion you need from the lawyer. I don't know what you're waiting for. You know? I don't know what we're afraid of here.
I don't think we're afraid of anything. We're waiting for one more opinion from legal that will
But
help
they
us.
just said it has to show specific
I
intent.
have not seen any specific intent here.
A perk isn't specific intent of
In my
conversion?
opinion, no. That's why we've asked K&P to give us the written opinion on what they believe is specific intent.
And they said they're going to give it to us quickly.
By March 6th.
Yeah, but we'll ask for it before that, because I think that'll tweak that question, you know. But
Well, as a citizen, a longtime resident, I would like to see the board request its right of first refusal on these lands. I'm tired of messing around here. That's what I want, that's what I think it's your duty to do.
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway. 10 years ago, before April, the month of April, the town had a law that we had to have 2 perk sites for a lot, for a house. After April, 10 years ago, it moved to 4. That's why you're seeing 4 perk tests done.
You're seeing 4 deep holes, 2 perk tests. You need to do 4 deep holes so you have enough strata identification for the leach field and for the repair area.
Right.
Okay, that's why there's.
So
4
there's
holes.
one house.
One house.
Yeah, 'cause we had 35 on ours. Ed Winter, thank you very much, did ours, and they thought there was going to be a duplex going up on our property. One house.
I thought it was low-income housing.
Yeah.
They changed the code a few years ago, and they required that because they were finding that people were building and limiting the amount of repair area they had.
It's still a change of use.
I was talking about the sanitary code, I wasn't talking about the change of use of the land.
Okay, it doesn't matter whether
The
it's
other-
4 houses or 1 house, it's still a change of use.
The other thing is people take and do perk tests to do land values. That when they go to argue negotiations of purchase, they may do a perk test and stuff just to verify that the potential's there and the land has a use as a building lot. Doesn't mean they're changing it, but they use that as an argument to increase the sale price. That doesn't mean there's a change of intent.
And who commissions that to be done?
That is usually done by the seller and the buyer. Has nothing to do with the town.
So can we ask legal to give us the rest of this decision very quickly so we can make our minds up on this?
I think if you put together a very quick
Well, I
question.
think what we're waiting for here will tell us what we need to know.
All right,
We just need to push her before March 6th.
okay.
Yeah. And if we have to have a special meeting to come back and address it,
Special meeting.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Just so you're aware, there was conversation on former road relative to that property and putting some of it into the conservation. So it's not like that whole property is just going into construction of housing.
But tomorrow night is a development plan, so that's pretty clear.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move now into executive session. We are not gonna return into open session. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 6, to consider purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on negotiation position of the public body, highway garage parcel, and charter communication. MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 6, to consider purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have the detrimental effect on negotiation position. This is the Wayne Property College Highway. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Item 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special laws or federal grant and aid requirements. Basically, it's approval of executive session minutes, January 9th, 2018. I need a roll call vote.
Martin, aye.
Kaneki, aye.
And I'm gonna leave.
No, I want you for the first two. Well, the first one and the third one.
Did we have a motion in a second? I'm gonna hammer this stuff up.
Do we have a motion
For what?
to go in executive session?
I just said aye, I mean, that was.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Now I need a roll call vote.
All okay. Martin, aye.
Kaneki, aye.
No, I'm not gonna go in on one of these, so
That's right.
I can go into executive session, but I will not be here for, the number two.
Yeah.
Labrie, aye for the, first and the last item.
We are now in executive session. I'm calling a 10-minute recess.